Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start by taking you back in time. Way back. Close your eyes for a second. It is May 25, 1961.
A very specific Tuesday in history.
Incredibly specific. And the mood in the room, the mood in the entire country really is heavy. It's fragile. If you're a school teen in America in 1961, you aren't thinking about TikTok or video games or what's on TV.
No.
You are doing duck and cover drills under your wooden desk because the principal told you that a flash of light could end the world. The Cold War isn't just a headline in the paper. It is the atmosphere you breathe. It's thick.
It's so hard for us to grasp that level of
Yeah.
existential dread today. We look back at the 60s through this sort of Mad Men filter, all cool suits, cigarettes, and mid-century furniture. But in 1961, the United States was losing, and we were losing badly.
To the Soviet Union.
To the Soviet Union. I mean, the Soviets were winning everything that mattered in the public imagination. They launched Sputnik, the first satellite. That terrified people, because if they could put a ball in space, well, they could put a bomb in space. Then they put Yuri Gagarin into orbit, the first human in space. America had what sociologists at the time were actually calling a national inferiority complex.
Wow, they actually called it that.
They did. We felt second rate. We felt slow. We felt like the empire was, crumbling before it even peaked.
And the man in charge just before this moment, President Dwight Eisenhower, his reaction to this whole space race was, let's call it cool.
That's putting it mildly. Eisenhower was a general. He was a pragmatist to his core. He looked at the space race and saw a stunt. He literally called it that.
A stunt.
A stunt. He funded NASA, but he did it begrudgingly. He was a manager. He wanted to balance the budget, keep the military strong. He didn't see the point of shooting tin cans into orbit just to show off.
So that's the context. You have a terrified nation, a pragmatic government, and the Soviets are just lapping us. And then John F. Kennedy walks onto the podium before a joint session of Congress.
And this is the pivot point. This is the moment everything changes. But you have to realize something crucial. Kennedy doesn't have the technology. We literally do not have the rockets to get to the moon.
Good thing.
We don't have the materials to build a capsule that can survive the radiation. We don't even have the math to calculate the re-entry trajectory. It doesn't exist.
But he stands there anyway.
He stands there and he says those famous words, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
It's the ultimate mic drop moment of the 20th century. But here's the thing that blows my mind. At the time, people didn't cheer. The experts thought he was delusional.
Oh, absolutely. Eisenhower called it nuts. The actual administrator of NASA at the time, T. Keith Glennon, called it a bad move.
The head of NASA said it was a bad move.
The head of NASA. He looked at the logistics and said, we can't do this. Public support was polling at less than 50%. So it wasn't popular and it wasn't practical. It was, for all intents and purposes, crazy.
But we know the ending. July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong takes the step.
And that story, that transition from the impossible to the inevitable, that's really why we are here today. Kennedy didn't have the how. He didn't have the strategy. But he had the what. He had the vision. Today, we are doing a deep dive into The Vision-Driven Leader by Michael Hyatt.
And this is a book that argues that without that Kennedy-esque ability to see a future that doesn't exist yet, you aren't really leading. You're just, you're managing the decline.
Exactly. And Michael Hyatt isn't writing this from some ivory tower. He's the former CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishers. He's led huge organizations. But he admits in the book that he learned this the hard way. He talks about a colossal business failure early in his career where he lost everything.
Oh, wow.
And not because he wasn't working hard, but because he had no idea where he was going. He's writing from the trenches.
So our mission today is to unpack the framework Hyatt lays out. We have 10 questions, 4 quadrants, and a lot of mental models to get through. But we have to start with the elephant in the room, or maybe the manager in the room.
This is the diagnostic. Are you a leader or are you a manager?
In most companies, those titles are, they're interchangeable. You get promoted to management, you call yourself a leader. Hyatt says they are totally different species.
Totally different. And to explain it, he uses another presidential comparison, which is just perfect. We talked about JFK, the visionary. Now, contrast him with President George H.W. Bush.
Bush 41, the vision thing.
The famous vision thing. It's a well-known political anecdote. In 1987, Bush is getting ready to run for president. Now, Bush is a resume guy, CIA director, vice president, ambassador to the UN. He knows how the government works better than anyone.
He knows the machine.
He knows the machine inside and out. But a friend suggests he needs to go away to Camp David, take a few days off, and just dream. figure out where he wants to take the country.
And Bush's reaction wasn't exactly enthusiastic.
He was dismissive. He reportedly said, oh, the vision thing. He viewed it as fluff. He saw it as a total waste of time when there was real work to be done. He wanted to manage the machinery.
And to be fair, he was a really good manager.
He was a brilliant manager. He managed the collapse of the Soviet Union. He managed the Gulf War. But he lost his re-election bid to Bill Clinton. And you have to ask why.
Why?
Because the world had changed. The Cold War ended. The economy shifted. And Bush couldn't paint a picture of what the future looked like in this new landscape. He could manage the status quo, but he couldn't lead people into a new reality.
That seems to be the core distinction Hyatt is making. A leader creates and casts vision. They are focused on the horizon. There's a quote from Seth Godin in the notes here. Leaders create things that didn't exist before.
Right, versus the manager. And we need to be very clear here. Hyatt is not bashing managers. Managers are absolutely essential.
You need them.
You need them. They execute the vision. They maintain the systems. They keep the trains running on time. They focus on the bottom line and, minimizing risk.
If you only have management.
Then you get stagnation. You get a really well-run machine that is driving off a cliff. In a fast-moving world, the status quo is actually a slow death.
There's a statistic in the research here that really terrified me. It's about decision-making in these manager-heavy organizations. The 5.4 managers rule.
This comes from the Corporate Executive Board. They found that in large organizations, on average, it takes 5.4 managers to sign off on a decision.
5.4 people. I'm just picturing the logistics of that meeting. It sounds like a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. And just think about the incentives at play. You have, let's call it 6 people in a room. One runs finance, one runs legal, one runs operations. They all have different risks they're trying to avoid.
Right. They're all protecting their own turf.
Exactly. So to get all 5.4 of them to agree on something, what do you have to do? You have to water down the idea.
You compromise.
You compromise to the lowest common denominator. You pick the safest, most boring option that won't get anyone fired. That is the cost of having management without leadership. You get gridlock or you get mediocrity. You cannot manage your way to a moonshot. You have to lead there.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, I don't want to be the bottleneck. I don't want to be one of the 5.4. I want to be the visionary. But is this just about, inspiring speeches? Is vision just about feeling good on a Monday morning?
Well, it's about survival. This is the second part of our deep dive, the stakes. Hyatt argues that without vision, companies don't just get boring, they die. And he brings the receipts with some really brutal case studies.
The big one being Kodak.
The classic tragedy.
We all grew up with Kodak moments. The little yellow boxes, they were invincible.
It's all in the 20th century. And the common narrative, the story we all think we know, is that Kodak failed because they got beat by technology. They missed the digital wave.
Right, they were dinosaurs. They were just too slow.
But that's false. That's completely false. Kodak didn't lack the technology. They actually invented the digital camera.
Wait, they invented it?
They invented it.
Hmm.
In 1975, a Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson built the first digital camera. It was the size of a toaster, but it worked. He took it to the executives, the managers, and showed them the future.
And what did they say? This is amazing, you're a genius.
They basically asked him, does it use film? He said no. And they said, that's cute, but don't tell anyone about it.
Because they were in the film business.
Exactly. They were protecting their margins. They made money on chemicals and paper. They viewed themselves as a film company, not a memory company. That's the key. They suppressed their own invention to protect the status quo. That is a failure of vision, not a failure of technology.
So now compare that to Fujifilm. Same era, same product, same massive threat.
Same panic. Digital was coming for them too. It was an existential threat. But Fujifilm had a CEO, Shigetaka Komori, who had a vision. He launched a project called Vision 75. He looked at the company and said, we are not in the film business. We are in the information business. And that little change, that reframing, meant he looked at their assets differently.
This is the part that sounds like science fiction. They pivoted to cosmetics. How does that even work?
It sounds insane, right?
Yeah.
But look at the chemistry. Film is made of collagen.
Okay.
Human skin is made of collagen. Preventing a photograph from fading over time involves antioxidation. Preventing skin from aging involves...
Yet oxidation.
Exactly. They realized they were masters of collagen and antioxidation.
So they took their film technology and made face cream.
They launched a brand called Astalift. It was a huge hit. They also used their chemical expertise to make films for LCD screens, these polarizer films. Today, Fujifilm is a thriving healthcare and electronics company. And Kodak is. Well, Kodak. It's a memory.
That is the power of the definition. Kodak said, we do film. Fujifilm said, we do chemistry and information. That vision, that simple definition dictated whether they lived or died.
It allows you to see assets where others see junk. Kodak saw the digital camera as a threat to their film sales. Fujifilm, with a different vision, would have seen it as a new way to capture information.
There's another great example of this seeing what isn't there with the Zappos, the shoe company.
Mm-hmm. This is a perfect example of overcoming what you could call managerial logic.
Because logically, selling shoes online in 1999 was a terrible idea.
Terrible. The founder, Nick Swinmurn, went to investors, and they all basically laughed at him. Their logic was sound. People need to try shoes on. Shoes fit differently. It's a tactile experience. Nobody's going to buy a $100 pair of sneakers they can't touch.
That is a manager looking at constraints. That's the box.
Exactly. Here are the rules of the world. Tony Hsieh, who eventually became the CEO, he looked at it differently. He didn't see the constraints. He saw a piece of data everyone else was ignoring. He saw that mail-order catalogs for shoes were already a $2 billion industry.
So people were buying without trying them on.
At least some people were. That proved the behavior existed. So his vision wasn't just sell shoes. His vision was create the absolute best customer service company in the world. He realized if the return policy was easy enough, free shipping both ways, 365-day returns, he could remove the risk. He didn't see a shoe store. He saw a service platform that happened to sell shoes.
And Amazon eventually bought them for over $1 billion.
Because he saw the what before he got bogged down by the how.
Okay, so we have the danger of missing the boat like Kodak. But Hyatt points out there's also the danger of trying to board every boat, the scattered priorities trap.
This is the story of Jawbone.
I remember Jawbone, the cool Bluetooth headsets, the Jambox speakers. They were everywhere for a minute.
They were the darlings of Silicon Valley for a while. They raised $900 million.
Nearly $1 billion.
$1 billion in venture capital.
Yeah.
And they went bankrupt.
How do you lose $1 billion when you have a cool brand and popular products?
Hyatt calls it death by overeating. They had no filter. They did headsets, then speakers. Then they jumped into fitness trackers because Fitbit was cool. They were chasing every shiny object. They lacked a cohesive vision that would allow them to say no.
And you contrast that with Apple.
The ultimate contrast. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was weeks away from bankruptcy. They were making everything: printers, scanners, PDAs, Newtons, desktops, servers. They had something like 350 different products.
350? I didn't even know they made printers.
They were terrible printers, which was part of the problem. Jobs walks in, goes to the whiteboard, draws a simple grid, 2 columns, consumer and pro, 2 rows, desktop and portable, 4 quadrants. And he said, we are going to make 4 great computers. That's it. He got 346 products.
He fired 3,000 people in the process.
It was brutal, absolutely brutal, but it saved the company. The famous quote is, innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Vision isn't just about what you do, it's the filter for what you don't do. Without a vision, every opportunity looks good. Hey, let's make a toaster. Why not? But with a vision, you can say, that's a great toaster, but it's not our mission.
It's so interesting because we usually think of visionaries as these expansive people who want to do everything. But what you're saying is that a true visionary is the ultimate editor.
The visionary is the architect. An architect doesn't just keep adding rooms to the house because they have extra bricks. They follow the blueprint. The vision is the blueprint.
There's a Lufthansa study mentioned in the notes that just drives this home in a really painful way.
This is a depressing one for anyone in middle management. Lufthansa found that 90% of managers squander their time on ineffective activities.
90%? That can't be right.
90%. Only 10% of their time was spent working in a purposeful manner. And the question is why? Because without a clear vision, you are just reacting. You are answering emails, attending meetings, putting out fires. You are busy, but you aren't effective. You are rowing the boat, but you're just spinning in circles.
So we've established the stakes. If you don't have vision, you drift like Kodak, or you bloat like Jawbone, or you just spin your wheels in endless meetings. We get it. We need a vision. But how do we actually write one? This isn't something they teach you in business school.
No, and most companies get it completely wrong. This brings us to section 3, drafting the script. And the very first thing we have to do is clear up the confusion between a mission statement and a vision statement.
I feel like most corporate websites just mash these together into a word salad. We strive to synergize excellence for our stakeholders. What does that even mean?
It means nothing. It's just noise. Hyatt separates them very, very clearly. Mission is the head. It is present tense. It answers. Who are we? Who do we serve? What problem do we solve? Mission is here and now.
Okay, mission is the engine. It's what you do today.
Right. Vision is the heart. It is future tense. It answers. Where are we going? What does the world look like when we finish? Vision is out there and next.
Mission is here, vision is out there. I like that. That's simple.
It is. Hyatt tells this great story of when he took over the Nelson Books division at Thomas Nelson Publishers. It was a disaster. It was dead last in revenue. Morale was in the toilet. He didn't need a mission statement. Everyone knew they were a book publisher. That wasn't the mystery. He needed a direction, a destination.
So what did he do? Did he start by firing people or cutting the budget?
No, the first thing he did was go on a retreat. He got out of the office. And he wrote what he calls a vision script. Now, this is not a slogan. It's not just do it. It is a robust, multi-page document. And here's the key, the secret sauce. It is written in the present tense, but dated 3 to 5 years in the future.
Wait, explain that. Present tense about the future, like we are the #1 publisher. Not we will be.
Exactly. Instead of saying, we hope to become the market leader, you write, it is 2029, and we are the market leader.
What does that shift do to your brain? Why is that so important?
It moves you from wishing to identity. When you say we hope to, your brain treats it as a fantasy, as something outside of yourself. When you say we are, your brain starts looking for the evidence to support that reality. It creates a cognitive dissonance that your mind desperately wants to close. It drives you to make that statement true.
Hyatt breaks the script down into 4 specific buckets. I think we should walk through these because if you're listening and want to actually do this weekend, this is the checklist.
Let's do it. If you're drafting your script, you have to cover these 4 fronts. Right. Number 1, the future of the team. Most leaders skip this. They go straight to profits and products. But Hyatt says you have to visualize your people first. What is the culture? What does it feel like to work here? He wrote things like, we have a no-jerk policy, and our team takes ownership.
So you're literally visualizing the mood in the hallway.
Yes. Do people like coming to work? Are they excited? Write it down as if it's already true. Number 2, the future of the products. What are you selling? And more importantly, how good is it? Hyatt wrote a very specific, very bold line. We publish 7 New York Times bestsellers a year.
That is terrifyingly specific, especially if you're not publishing any.
It is. And at the time, they had 0. Zero.
Yeah.
But by writing we publish 7, it forced them to ask new questions. Okay, what kind of authors do we need to sign to get 7 bestsellers? What kind of marketing do we need? Specificity forces strategy.
Okay, that makes sense. What's number 3?
Number 3, the future of sales and marketing. How do you actually reach your customers? He wrote things like, we have deep personal relationships with our authors. We use data to make decisions, not hunches. It's about how you behave in the marketplace.
And the last one.
And number 4, the future of impact. This is the why. It's not just about how much money you make, but what is the legacy? What dent are you putting in the universe? He wrote things like, we are changing the conversation around leadership in our culture.
So you write this whole document. It's maybe 3 or 4 pages. And when you read it, it sounds like a dispatch from a better future.
Exactly. It's a letter from the future, and you're reading it today.
But how do I know if my vision is actually good? I mean, maybe I just wrote a letter from a delusional future or a really boring one.
That is a great question, and that leads us to section 4, refining the vision. Hyatt gives us a tool for this called the vision grid.
I love a good 2x2 matrix. Break it down for us.
Okay, so imagine a graph. The horizontal x-axis is concrete versus abstract. The vertical y-axis is explicit versus implicit. Your goal is to be in the top right quadrant, concrete and explicit. Let's look at the failure modes first.
Okay.
Quadrant 1, bottom left, is foggy. This is abstract and implicit. This is a vision like we want to do cool stuff.
Completely useless.
Useless. Quadrant 2, bottom right, is confused. This is abstract but explicit. This is where most corporate jargon lives. We aim to be the premier provider of synergistic solutions. You're saying it explicitly, you're saying it loudly, but the content is abstract. It means nothing.
World-class excellence.
Right. What does that even mean? Nothing. Now, quadrant 3, top left, is the most dangerous for smart people. It's the intuitive quadrant. This is concrete but implicit. This is the founder's trap.
The founder's trap. I like that.
The founder sees the vision perfectly. It is concrete in their head. They know exactly what the product should look like, feel like, but they haven't made it explicit. They haven't written it down or communicated it clearly.
So the whole team is just guessing what's in the founder's head.
The team is guessing, and the founder is getting more and more frustrated. Why don't you guys get it? Well, because you haven't said it. You haven't transferred the file from your brain to theirs. You have to move to quadrant 4. Clear, that's concrete, like 7 bestsellers. And explicit, meaning it's written down and shared with everyone.
But clarity isn't enough, right? I mean, a grocery list is clear, buy milk. It's concrete and explicit, but it's not inspiring.
Correct. The vision must also be exponential, not incremental. This is a huge point. If your vision is increase sales by 10% next year, that's a budget goal. That belongs to a manager. That's incremental. A vision should be a leap.
A 10x change, not a 10% change.
Exactly. Think about Steve Jobs and the iPhone again. The market was arguing about keyboards on BlackBerries. Make the buttons clickier. That's incremental. Jobs said, I want no keyboard. I want a single sheet of glass. That is an exponential vision.
And this brings up a massive psychological hurdle for most of us. When you set an exponential goal like land a man on the moon, the immediate reaction from your brain is, but how?
The tyranny of the house.
It sounds so responsible to ask how. It's the practical question.
It feels responsible, but it kills vision. If you ask how too early in the process, you will quit. Because the how almost always looks impossible at the start. Imagine the Wright brothers. If Wilbur and Orville sat down and said, okay, first, how do we build a lightweight internal combustion engine? How do we calculate airfoil lift? How do we warp the wings to control roll? They didn't know. If they focused on the how, they would have stayed bicycle mechanics.
So what did they focus on?
They focused on the what. We are going to fly. The what pulls you through the difficulty and the uncertainty of the how.
So you have to suspend disbelief. You have to get comfortable with the gap between your vision and your current reality.
You have to trust the process and let the what guide you.
But eventually you do have to answer the how. I mean, we can't just dream forever. Section 5 of the book is all about execution. How do you make this practical?
This is where the rubber meets the road. And Hyatt uses a climbing analogy here that I think is just brilliant. It's about the climber Tommy Caldwell and the Dawn Wall.
If you haven't seen the documentary The Dawn Wall, you have to put it on your list. It's incredible. This is a sheer face of granite in Yosemite, El Capitan. It's basically glass smooth. It was considered unclimbable.
Completely impossible. Caldwell had a vision. Stand on top of the Dawn Wall, that was the fixed point, the destination, and non-negotiable.
Okay.
But his strategy, that was the route he took up the wall. He spent years mapping it, pitch by pitch, hanging off ropes, scrubbing moss off the rock, finding these tiny edges of rock the size of a dime.
It took him years.
Years. Now, here is the lesson for leaders. When he encountered a section that seemed impossible, a pitch where he kept falling over and over, he didn't change the vision. He didn't say, well, I guess I won't climb the Dawn Wall. He changed his strategy. He found a new hold. He swung left instead of right. He trained his finger strength for months for one specific move.
Hold the vision tight, hold the strategy loose.
That is the mantra. Most leaders do the exact opposite. They fall in love with their strategy. We have to use Facebook ads. And when it fails, they lower their vision. I guess we won't hit our revenue target. The vision-driven leader says the goal is the goal. If Facebook ads don't work, we try LinkedIn. If that doesn't work, we knock on doors. The strategy is disposable. The vision is non-negotiable.
I like that. That's a powerful distinction. But let's bring it down from the mountain face to my office chair. How do I connect that 5-year moonshot to my Tuesday morning to-do list?
Hyatt suggests a zip line. Imagine a zip line connecting the clouds, where the vision lives, all the way down to the ground, which is today's work. At the very top, you have the vision script, 3 to 5 years. Below that, the annual plan, 7-10 goals for this year that move you toward the vision.
Yeah.
Below that, quarterly goals. Below that, weekly objectives. And finally, right on the ground, the daily big 3.
The 3 most important things you must do today.
Exactly. And the test is, can you connect them? If your daily big 3 don't zip up that line to eventually hit that vision script, you're wasting your time. You are just being busy. You're not being productive.
It's a constant alignment check. Does this email I'm about to write help us get to the moon?
And if the answer is no, too many times in a row, you have a problem. There's a stat in the book that says 40 to 60% of a leader's time should be focused on vision-advancing tasks. Not maintenance, vision advancing.
That seems incredibly high.
It is high. Most of us are probably at 5%. But that's why most organizations drift. You have to fight for that time, schedule it, protect it.
You also have to use this vision for hiring. I love the story of Jane Chen in the notes. This is a perfect example of vision as a filter.
Jane Chen is the CEO of a company called Embrace Innovations, and her vision was devastatingly simple. No baby should die from being cold.
Wow.
In developing countries, millions of premature babies die. because hospitals can't afford $20,000 incubators. Now, because her vision was save the baby, not build a cheaper hospital unit, her strategy became radical. She created a $200 incubator that looks like a little sleeping bag. You heat it with warm water. It's brilliant.
That's incredible.
But now, when she hires engineers, she has to filter for that vision. If she interviews a brilliant engineer from a top school who wants to build high-tech, chrome-plated medical devices for rich American hospitals, he is a bad hire. Not because he isn't talented, but because his vision doesn't match hers.
The vision repels the wrong people and attracts the right people.
Exactly. It creates a tribe. It becomes a magnet for the right talent.
So we have the script, we have the strategy, we have the team. Now comes the part that I think gives most people hives. The social challenge. Selling it.
Because you can't just write this beautiful vision script, email it to your company, and expect everyone to salute. It doesn't work that way. You have to sell it. And Hyatt said you have to sell it in 360 degrees, up, down, and across.
Selling up seems like the trickiest one. If I'm a middle manager, how do I sell a bold, risky vision to a boss who is obsessed with cutting costs this quarter?
You have to frame the vision as the solution to their problem. There is a great story in the book of a VP who needed to hire 2 new graphic designers. He knew his boss would say no to the cost. I can't afford $100,000 in new salaries right now.
Standard manager response.
Right. So the VP did the math. He realized the company was spending $600,000 a year outsourcing design work to expensive agencies. He went to the boss and said, I have a vision to save the company $400,000 this year.
And the boss said,
I'm listening. The VP said, I need to invest $200,000 in salaries to bring the work in-house, which will eliminate the agency fees and save us the $400,000. He didn't sell the cost. He sold the vision of savings.
that is so smart. It's all about the framing. What about selling down to the team?
That requires radical honesty. Hyatt calls it the change challenge. When you announce a new vision, we're going to the moon.
Oh.
Some people on your team will be excited, but some will be terrified. What about my job? Do I have the skills for the moon mission?
They see it as a threat.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you have to invite them into the story. You have to say, this is where we're going. I want you to come with us. We will provide training. We will help you grow. But we are going. Staying here in the status quo is not an option.
And then, no matter how well you sell it, you get punched in the face.
The Mike Tyson rule. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Resistance is inevitable, guaranteed.
I want to talk about the Semmelweis reflex. I had never heard this term before, but it explains so much of human history. It's chilling.
It's a tragic story, really. Ignaz Semmelweis was a doctor in Vienna in the 1840s. He noticed that the mortality rate in the maternity ward run by doctors was horrific, like 18% of women were dying after childbirth.
1 in 5. That's awful.
Awful. He did some experiments, and he realized that if doctors simply washed their hand with a chlorine solution between performing autopsies and delivering babies, the death rate dropped to 1%.
To 1%! That's a miracle cure.
It was irrefutable data. He had the answer. He had saved countless lives. But when he presented it to the medical community, did they throw him a parade?
Let me guess. No.
They destroyed him. They mocked him. They fired him. He died in an asylum. Why? Because his vision contradicted their paradigm. It offended their egos. Are you saying we, gentlemen doctors, are dirty? That we are the ones killing our patients? They couldn't accept the truth because it hurt their self-image. This is the Semmelweis reflex. The automatic, visceral rejection of new information because it contradicts established norms.
That is terrifying, but as a leader, you have to expect it. When you say we are going digital or we are changing the product, people will have a Semmelweis reflex, but we've always done it this way.
And you cannot take it personally. Resistance isn't a sign that your vision is wrong. It is often a sign that your vision is real. If nobody pushes back, you probably aren't changing anything important.
You look at NASA again. The Apollo 1 fire.
3 astronauts died on the launch pad. Grissom, White, Chaffee. It was a horrific failure. The press screamed, "Stop the program. It's too dangerous. It's a waste of money." That was the resistance.
And they could have quit.
They could have. But they used the resistance. They used the failure to redesign the hatch, the wiring, the atmosphere inside the capsule. They let the resistance sharpen the strategy, not kill the vision.
That takes incredible grit. But I want to play devil's advocate for a second. Sometimes the hole is just too deep. Sometimes the company's already dead and just doesn't know it yet. Is it ever too late for vision?
This is the final section of the book, and it's so hopeful. It's about the pivot, or what Hyatt calls the vision zag. He talks about the life cycle of a company. You have startup, rising, mature, and then the decline. Zombie and dead.
A zombie company? I think we've all worked for a zombie company at some point. Just
They-
going through the motion.
Right, it's just servicing its debt, it's walking around, but there's no life inside. But Hyatt says you can zag back to growth from almost anywhere, even from the grave. And his prime example is Lego.
Lego is the ultimate comeback story.
In 2003, Lego was a zombie. They were $800 million in debt. They were losing $300 million a year. And the question is why? Because they had lost their vision. They had vision drift. They were making jewelry, clothes, video games, theme parks.
They're trying to be everything to everyone.
Exactly. A new CEO came in, Jürgen Vig Knudstorp. And his vision was a radical zag. He said, we are about the brick. He sold the theme parks. He cut the jewelry and clothing lines. He focused entirely on the core system of play. He went back to the essence, and today, they are the largest toy company on Earth.
So sometimes the vision isn't something brand new. It's about rediscovering the true vision you lost.
Exactly. It's true, not new. And sometimes it's a total reinvention. Look at Slack. Do you know how Slack started?
I assume it was always a chat app.
No, not at all. It was a gaming company called Tiny Speck. They raised millions to make a massive multiplayer online game called Glitch. And the game was a total flop. Nobody played it. They were in the dead stage. They were literally shutting down the servers.
Okay, that's the end of the line.
It should have been.
Yeah.
But the founder, Stuart Butterfield, noticed something. He said, hey, while we were building this failed game, we built this little internal tool to chat with each other. And we actually really love it. It's better than email.
So the game was the failure, but the tool they used to build the game was the real gold.
That was the zag. He realized, we are not a gaming company. We are a communication company. They pivoted the entire company, and Slack became one of the fastest-growing business apps in history. The vision saved the value from the wreckage of the failure.
It really shows that it's never too late, as long as you're willing to look at reality and then have the courage to imagine something different.
That's it. Vision is an act of will. It's a choice.
So let's bring this all the way back. We've gone from the nuclear anxiety of 1961 to the design labs of Lego. We've seen that a leader isn't just a boss. A leader is an architect of the future. A manager maintains the house. The leader builds the new addition. We've learned how to draft a vision script present tense, 4 buckets, concrete and explicit. We've learned that resistance is guaranteed. Remember core Dr. Semmelweis, but that you can use that resistance to sharpen your focus, not abandon the mission.
And it brings us back to that final question Hyatt asks, are you ready? Because here is the truth. The world is full of managers. We have plenty of people who can maintain the status quo. We have plenty of people who can say no because it's safer. What we are desperate for in our companies, in our families, in our communities, are people who can see a better future and have the courage to say, let's go there.
It's about choosing to be JFK, not George Bush in the context of the vision thing. It's about choosing to chart the course to the moon, not just manage the status quo.
And vision doesn't happen by accident. You won't find it in your inbox. You won't have an epiphany while scrolling through social media. You have to step away. You have to carve out the time to dream.
So that is your challenge for the week, listener. Turn off the phone, find a quiet room, maybe not Camp David, but somewhere quiet, and ask yourself that big, scary question. What do I want? Where are we going? Thanks for diving depth with us. We'll see you in the future.
Take care.